Former State Street Supervisor David Caldwell has been captured in Frederick a week after a warrant went out when he missed a court appearance.
David Caldwell was the site supervisor for the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets location 2 years ago. Now, after skipping out on a court appearance for felony drug charges, Caldwell is back in custody, but questions still remain about transparency when it comes to the Safe Streets program.
So we are told by the defund the police type that the problems in our criminal justice system are things not to be addressed by law enforcement. And in reality, in actuality, what we need is a bunch of people that are more connected to the community, such as violence interrupters, in order to settle the disputes that are happening, because the community has just lost its trust for law enforcement officers. And there are often programs and politicians that are cited as successes that they use as examples for how this is definitely better than policing. And in recent years, the left-wing media has tried to push Brandon Scott and a bunch of his social programs out of Baltimore as an explanation for the recent drop in homicides. And one of the programs that they cite is, of course, the Safe Streets program. But as you just saw in the opening of this particular video, a fugitive from the Safe Streets program actually turned out to be a drug kingpin. And what ends up being revealed to us via this Fox 45 Baltimore investigation is that this is not uncommon at all whatsoever. And one of the things that I've emphasized on this channel multiple different times is that Brandon Scott, who was sworn into office on December 8th of 2020, did not actually lower homicide for the first 2 years in the city of Baltimore. And in fact, it is Ivan Bates, the prosecutor who replaced the previous pro-Black Lives Matter prosecutor targeting repeat gun offenders, that drove down homicide. That, of course, is proving the truth that law enforcement is what is needed in order to address these high crime areas. So this is what we're going to talk about today: how these woke criminal justice programs actually have no transparency at all whatsoever. And in reality, rather than preventing crime, these are actually becoming hotbeds for criminals. And oftentimes, working with these organizations is used to put people who are arrested back on the streets based on their alleged support for the community. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who helps make my street safer over at actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
David Caldwell is facing felony drug charges and was supposed to show up to court in Baltimore City on October 27th. Instead of trial getting underway, the judge issuing a warrant for Caldwell's arrest since he failed to appear. A week later, Wednesday morning, the Baltimore City Sheriff's Office says the Special Operations Division tracked Caldwell to a house just outside of Frederick, Maryland. There, deputies say Caldwell was found hiding in a closet. In February, Caldwell was seen by police involved in alleged drug deals, according to court documents.
So look, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I just play one on the internet.com for you guys out there in the audience, but there is no way that you could tell me that just based on looking at David Caldwell, if you had to pick whether or not he was a community organizer, somebody who was a violence interrupter, or a gang leader himself, you would likely not side with gang leader. I mean, he has the gold grill, he has all the signs of a criminal activity just based on face alone, and in addition to that, he has a lengthy criminal history that should have been a red flag for any organization receiving government money. However, in the corrupt city of Baltimore, this appears to be standard operating procedure, because they talk about how he is a member of the violence interrupters in the city of Baltimore. They tie it specifically to an organization there that, again, has a severe lack of transparency. But what they don't tell you until later on in this segment is that he was actually first raided by the FBI under the suspicion of being a drug kingpin back in 2022, but he was only dismissed from this taxpayer-funded occupation in 2024. So they've been letting him get away with this for a very long time, and it is unsurprising that he has been indicted yet again, and he is acting as a fugitive based on that criminal history.
Police say they found a brown paper bag inside Caldwell's suspected vehicle, which was found to contain a black wrapped brick police believed was cocaine. The court records go on to say the BPD detective knows that high-level narcotics traffickers will package their cocaine in pressed packages in a square brick shape, weighing about 1 kilogram.
So this is important right here because there are going to be some people out there in the audience who are going to say, okay, well, maybe this guy is a drug dealer, but that does not necessarily mean he's a sophisticated drug dealer. However, based on the detective's experience, he has stated before a court, again, where they have to actually have a standard for evidence, that this guy having a pressed brick of cocaine weighing nearly exactly 1 kilo is a standard operating procedure, not for your low-level, street-level drug dealers, but for your high-level drug traffickers. And again, this is an individual that is using the cover of working as a violence interrupter in order to get around and obfuscate a bunch of different criminal charges that he's faced over the years. And he is not the only person to do this, but again, it is a big red flag that he's being funded by the Baltimore taxpayer while he's doing this.
Attorney Jeremy Eldridge is not affiliated with this case, but says the fact that Caldwell is facing state charges indicates a few things.
Number one, he was a target of law enforcement. And number two, the state's attorney's office obviously wants to put the press on this case.
If convicted, Caldwell faces up to 20 years in prison.
However, the interesting thing here is that CDS large amount carries a 5-year mandatory minimum, meaning that you would do essentially day for day on that sentence, unlike a lot of other charges.
Now, we hear from an attorney that says that basically Caldwell was 100% the target of this investigation. He's actually facing a mandatory minimum of at least 5 years, but they're actually pursuing charges up to 20 years. And this is due to the fact that Caldwell is, according to the state's attorney's office, a very high-level drug trafficker. Now, we also get a little bit of footage of the FBI raid from back in 2023 that did not result in charges. However, the FBI reported that they did in fact find materials that are typically used in drug trafficking on the premises and, of course, a firearm. And again, this should have been a big red flag that this guy should not have been receiving taxpayer dollars.
Just over 2 years ago,
Was the FBI here this morning?
Have a good day.
the FBI came knocking at the Bella Edison Safe Street site and then the site supervisor, David Caldwell's home. The FBI seized a gun magazine with 9 live rounds and drug packaging material from Caldwell's home. So far, nothing has come from the federal search. By January 2024, Caldwell no longer worked for Safe Streets.
See, part of the thing that people don't seem to understand about these woke criminal justice programs is that unlike being a member of the police where you have to go through a background check, they have to take note of your criminal affiliations, there's almost no barrier to entry, no training required for you to be a part of this organization. And this is why a raid by the FBI of not only his individual home, but the Safe Street site was considered no big deal at all whatsoever. And I also want to add, in addition to everything else, that if he is likely using the Safe Streets office as a mechanism to deal drugs to the very community that he is supposed to be serving, there is no guarantee. In fact, there should be a guarantee to the opposite, that this guy is taking care of the tax dollars that he's receiving. Like, obviously, this could be a case of embezzlement yet to be uncovered. And again, this is all being done at the behest of the criminal justice reformers, and again, was done under the nose of the previous district attorney. However, the current state's attorney, Ivan Bates, is doing an excellent job cracking down on these organizations, despite the fact that the city, again, is obscuring the names of the people that are working for said organization.
Fox 45 News has been investigating Safe Streets for years. I've called and emailed some of these organizations that run the Safe Streets branches. We've been asking for an interview with the director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. Really underscore the importance of getting answers to some of the questions throughout that time. The only instance the public has learned the names of violence interrupters facing charges is when Fox 45 News has uncovered it. City Hall maintains the names of violence interrupters are not the city's to share, despite the program running on taxpayer dollars.
So again, I give a lot of credit to Fox 45 Baltimore. They've really been on this case for years, and obviously they're trying to fight to get the names of the people receiving tax dollars. However, the city of Baltimore is saying that they are not owed this information because it's a private organization. But pardon me for pointing out, once you're taking tax dollars and you're incorporated into the government, that is not a private organization, and we should be able to understand who is working for that organization and who is receiving this taxpayer money. And in fact, the only time that they're able to figure out who are members of this organization with potential criminal ties is when these people get arrested, because guess what? When they show up to court as a defense, they use their affiliation with the Safe Streets program in order to mitigate the charges and get them a release with little to no jail time.
Recently,
the sole count associated with this matter.
Fox 45 News obtained courtroom audio of attorneys seemingly tying their clients to the Safe Streets program in an attempt to better themselves.
He also spends a significant amount of time volunteering. He works with Safe Streets.
The esteemed minister has known my client for several years and has affirmed that my client participates in Safe Streets and has been a long-time advocate for those in dire straits.
I mean, again, this is just ridiculous that it is becoming incredibly common in Baltimore court for people who are arrested for serious charges, drug trafficking, whatever, to go before a judge and have their attorney say, look, they're innocent Bubba Angel Aladdins. They've been participating in Safe Streets for years, which again, we ultimately end up finding out was being headed up by a drug kingpin. So that probably explains why the place is staffed with so many criminals. But of course, the city of Baltimore denies that they have any affiliation. They won't release the names of those affiliated. However, I'm more tempted to actually agree with the people who are saying this under the penalty of perjury than the mayor that's trying to obfuscate the failures of his social programs that are supposed to be an alternative to prosecution and law enforcement. And to be 100% clear to everybody out there in the audience, I am not someone who's against rehabilitation programs. I'm not somebody who wants people to just be thrown away in prison forever and ever with no chance of ever rejoining society. And if there is a program that works or a program that we think might work, I'm all in favor of implementing it or testing it, because I do think it is valuable if we can to try to rehabilitate criminals. That being said, we cannot be blinded by the dream of rehabilitation to the reality of recidivism. This is not working. This is a program that is failing, and part of the reason that it's failing is that there's no transparency, and the criminals in Baltimore know that if they hook up with Safe Streets, by the way, they're basically working for a drug kingpin, and in addition to that, they can use that affiliation to obfuscate consequences in the future. And this is something that is articulated really well by District Attorney Ivan Bates.
It's almost as if people are in the criminal justice system are using Safe Streets to get out of jail free card.
But it's an issue the city's top prosecutor says could be solved.
We wouldn't have to do this if they just were transparent and they just gave us the names.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm pretty damn right-wing on a lot of different issues, especially related to criminal justice, but Ivan Bates, the Democrat right here, somebody who once ran to the left of the previous progressive district attorney, Marilyn Mosby, is one of the best prosecutors in the entire country, bar none. What this man has done for homicide, what this man has done targeting corruption is absolutely amazing. And while Baltimore is still incredibly dangerous, the decrease in homicide rate, the decrease in violent crime, especially in the areas that he has the most impact on, has been something that has just been remarkable around the country. And I'm genuinely 100% on board with this guy, especially in an area that is likely to never elect a Republican. They found the best damn Democrat that they could possibly find, and this guy deserves all the lauding and all the praise for his work. Every single time I see this man on television, he's saying and doing the right thing. Every time I hear about something in Baltimore going awry, Ivan Bates is there to fix it. Meanwhile, the mayor, who's getting a lot of credit for this, is doing nothing. He's always saying something stupid or ridiculous, and the fact is, we need more Democrats like Ivan Bates, because the alternative, the Marilyn Mosby that preceded him, Alvin Bragg in the borough of Manhattan, and all these woke prosecutors, is something that has been absolutely devastating for our nation. But yeah, I want to know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below. What do you think about this woke rehabilitation, redirecting people from prosecution program actually being utilized as a cover for criminals? Are you surprised, or is that just standard Baltimore? Again, all your thoughts down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the craziness in the city of Baltimore. Till next time.